Good morning. We are Group 10 and our topic is all about learners with exceptionalities. For the objectives and the end of this discussion, students will be able to first identify the 12 learners with exceptionalities, define the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and Individualized Education Program, and last, understand about how to teach students with special needs. Exceptional children and youth. These are those who receive special education services in the school. So ito yung mga child or youth na kinakailangan ng special education needs if they have a learning problem or disability that make it more difficult for them na matuto, and most sa mga children na at their age. Special education is a set of services designed to meet the unique needs of exceptional students. So, ito yung specially designed instruction para ma-meet yung needs ng students na may disabilities as they attend to school. Learning disabilities, ito yung mga problem that affect the child's ability to receive, process, analyze, or store information. They can make it difficult sa child na magbasa, magsulat, mag-spell, or solve math problems. Exceptionality. So, what makes a child exceptional? We have here 12 exceptionalities. I know it quite familiar kasi naturo na sa atin to last year. But let us first talk about mental retardation. So, yung mental retardation is permanent condition na kinakarakterized by submerged intelligence na nag-cause ng limitation sa pag-learn and adaptive functioning. Mental retardation, common known causes din siya ng intellectual disabilities like Down syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome, fragile syndrome, genetic conditions na nag-happen before birth. Others happen while a baby is being born or soon after birth. And yung person na may mental retardation has a below average intelligent or mental ability and a lack of skills necessary for day-to-day living. People with intellectual disabilities can and do learn new things, but they learn them more slowly. Severe or multiple disabilities, these are a profound and multiple learning disability. Now, when a person has a severe learning disability and other disabilities that significantly affect their ability to communicate and be independent. Yung isang tao na may profound and multiple learning disability is they're having difficulty in seeing, hearing, speaking, and moving. Autism or Autism Spectrum Disorder or ASD, ito yung developmental disability caused by differences in the brain. So, yung tao na may ASD is often nagkakaroon sila ng problem sa social communication and interaction and restricted or repetitive behaviors and interests. So, yung tao na may ASD may also have different ways in learning, moving, or paying attention. So, yung mga autistic na tao may act in a different way to other people. So, they may find it hard to understand how other people think or feel. Emotional disability. So, ito yung disability na may impact sa person's ability to recognize, interpret, control, and express fundamental emotions. Classification of emotional disabilities is anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, conduct disorder, eating disorder, and obsessive compulsive disorder. Blindness or visual impairment, it describes a wide variety of conditions that affect vision's ability. So, they use the term to denote a mild to the most severe vision loss rather than to defect in the eye itself. So, a visual impairment refers to an impairment in vision that even with correction adversely affect a child's educational performance. Traumatic brain injury or TBI. So, yung estudyante na may TBI is madali ma-distract from noisy hallways, crowded classes, too much information or too quickly, which may lead to difficulty thinking and emotional distress. Although yung TBI is very common, many medical and education professionals may not realize that some difficulties can be caused by a childhood brain injury. Often, yung mga estudyante na may TBI are thought to have a learning disability, emotional disturbance, or an intellectual disability. Speech or language disability. So, ito yung communication disorder such as stuttering, impaired articulation, a language impairment, a voice impairment na adversely nakakaapekto sa child's educational performance. Characteristic of speech or language disabilities is inability to express ideas, merong inappropriate use of grammar when talking or writing, inability to follow direction, difficulties in understanding and using words in context both verbally and nonverbal. Hearing loss, so ito yung impairment in hearing, whether permanent or fluctuating, that adversely affect a child's educational performance but is not included under the definition of deafness. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or what we call ADHD. So ito yung mental disorder of the neurodevelopmental type that is characterized by problems paying attention, excessively activity, or difficulty controlling behavior which is not appropriate for a person's age. So, yung symptoms nito ay nagsisimula by age of 6 to 12, are present for more than 6 months and cause problems in at least two settings such as home, school, or recreational activities. Gifted and talented. So, these are twice exceptional. So, yung mga estudyante na gifted is may evidence of high achievement capability in areas such as intellectual, creative, artistic, or leadership capacity or in a specific academic field. So, children who are gifted is children of above average abilities who have special educational needs. Health impairment are common diagnosis of diseases such as arthritis, cancer, asthma, AIDS, and heart disease. So, unless the condition is neurological in nature, health impairment are not likely to directly affect learning. However, the secondary effect of illness and the side effect of medication can have a significant impact on memory, attention, strength, endurance, and energy. Last is physical disabilities. So physical disability, it indicates any physical limitation or disabilities that inhibit the physical function of one or more limbs of a certain person. So, pwede siyang maging temporary or permanent na nagko-cause ng any of this kind of disease are various. Examples of physical disabilities are epilepsy, carpal tunnel syndromes, amputation, and spinal cord injuries.
So next is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. So what is IDEA? It is a federal law that requires schools to serve the educational needs of eligible students with disabilities. Isa sa mga purpose ng IDEA ay mabigyan ng boses ang mga magulang para sa edukasyon ng kanilang mga anak. So the IDEA ensures that the schools must evaluate students suspected of having disabilities, including learning disabilities. So, under the IDEA, yung mga magulang ay may boses para sa gagawing desisyon ng school para sa kanilang mga anak. So, this law gives you specific rights and protections. These are called procedural safeguards. So whenever the school made a decision, you have the right to say something, especially if you think it will harm your child. And schools are required to provide special education in the least restricted environment. So when we say least restricted environment, ito yung setting o lugar kung saan yung mga learners with disability ay makakatanggap ng pinaka-appropriate education para ma-meet yung kanilang educational needs kasama yung mga learners without disabilities. So in short, the least restricted environment means kids get an inclusive education. But not every child with learning and attention issues qualifies for special education services under. Hindi lahat ng mga estudyanteng nahihirapan sa kanilang klase ay qualified para makabilang sa Individuals with Disabilities Education. Those disabilities that had mentioned by Don Rose, the first reporter, are the only accepted or qualified to be part of these Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Next is the Individual Education Program. A federal law called the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, requires the public schools create an IEP for every child receiving special education services. Kids from age 3 through high school graduation, or a maximum age of 22, may be eligible for an IEP. IEP is meant to address each child's unique learning issues and include specific educational goals. It is legally binding document. So in order to be qualified in this individual education program, the child must have one of the 12 special learning disabilities listed in the Federal Special Education Law, or the IDEA. IEP must include a statement of your child's present level of performance, or PLOP. This is how your child is doing in school now. Another is your child's annual education goals, special education supports and services that the school will provide to help your child reach goals, modifications and accommodations the schools will provide to help your child make progress. So the IEP focuses more on the progress of the child. It must be completed by the teacher in close coordination with the child's parents, and as much as possible, the child himself. Let's move on to the 504 plan. This is a plan that lists the accommodations a school will provide, such as audiobooks, note-taking aids, or extended time to complete tests, so that the student with a disability has equal access to the general education curriculum. Special education process. First is the accommodation. Accommodation may be used to describe an alteration of environment, curriculum format, or equipment that allows an individual with a disability to gain access to content and or complete assigned task. They allow students with disabilities to pursue a regular course to study. In accommodations, instructors should be able to implement the same grading scale for students with disabilities as they do for the student without disabilities. For example, um, accommodation includes sign language interpreters for students who are deaf, large print books and worksheets for students with visual impairments. Next is the modification. Modification may be used to describe a change in the curriculum. Modifications are made for students with disabilities who are unable to comprehend all of the content and structure as teaching. So, halimbawa, yung mga assignments ay pwede mabawasan ng bilang at para na rin mas maunawaan ng estudyante ang lesson na ituturo sa kanila.
There are four approaches. These are inclusion, mainstreaming, segregation, and exclusion. In inclusion, it is an approach to educating students with special educational needs. Mainstreaming refers to the practice of educating students with special needs in classes with non-disabled students during specific time periods based on their skills. In segregation, in this model, students with special needs do not attend classes with non-disabled students. And in exclusion, a student who does not receive instruction in any school is excluded from school. There are four teaching strategies. These are differentiated instruction, individualized instructions, multisensory instruction, and instructional scaffolding. In differentiated instruction, it is a teaching method for groups of students, and individualized instruction focuses on the needs of the individual student. Multisensory instruction is a term schools use to describe ways of teaching that engage more than sense at a time. And in instructional scaffolding, it is a process through which a teacher adds supports for students in order to enhance learning and aid in the mastery of task. If the student has difficulty learning by listening, then try it. Before the lesson, pre-teach difficult vocabulary and concepts. State the object, providing a reason for listening. Provide study guides or worksheets. Provide script of film. Provide lecture outlines. During the lesson, provide visuals via the board or overhead. Use flashcards. Have the student close his eyes and try to visualize the information. Have the student take notes and use colored markers to highlight. Teach the use of acronyms to help visualize lists like Roy GV, or the acronym of rainbow for the colors of the spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Give explanations in small, distinct steps. If the student has difficulty expressing himself verbally, then try to accept an alternative form of sharing, such as the following: written report, artistic creation, exhibit or showcase, chart, graph or table, photo essay, map review of films, charade, or pantomime demonstration, taped record. 2. Ask questions requiring short answers. You provide a prompt. such as beginning the sentence for the student or giving a picture cue. Third, give the rules for class discussion. Give points for oral contributions in preparing the students individually. Last, teach the student to ask questions in class. You especially teach body and language expression.
If the student has difficulty reading written materials, then try. Find a text written at lower level. Provide highlighted materials. You rewrite the student text. Tape the student text. Allow a pair or parents to read text to students. Shorten the amount of required. Look for same content in another medium, movie, film strip, or tape. Provide alternative methods for students to contribute to the group, such as role-playing or dramatizing. Oral reading should be optional. Allow extra time for reading. Omit or shortening the reading required motivate the student, interesting him. Provide questions before student reads a selection. Include page and paragraph numbers. Type materials for easier reading. Use larger type. If the student has difficulty expressing himself in writing, then try accepting alternate forms of report. Oral report tape, recorded report tape of an interview collage, cartoon, or other art maps diorama. 3D materials, showcase exhibit photographic essay panel, discussion mock debate, review films and presentation of appropriate one to the class. Have the student dictate work to someone else, an older student, aide, or friend, and then copy it himself. Allow more time to shorten the writing assignments, preparing an outline or summary. Provide a sample of what the finished paper should look like to help him organize the part of the assignment. If the student has difficulty spelling, then try. Dictate the work and then asking the student to repeat it. Saying it in sequence may eliminate errors of omitted syllables. Avoid traditional spelling list. Determine list from social needs and school area needs. Use mnemonic device. Is the first capital letter? The Capitol building has a dome. Teach short essay, word in context. On it on, write on. On account of you, have student make flashcard and highlighting the difficult sports on the word. Give a recognition level spelling test, asking the student to circle correct word from 3 or 4 choices. Teach word by spelling patterns. Teach cake, bake, take, etc. in one lesson. Use the language master for drill. Avoid penalizing for spelling errors.